You are watching WPTV.
Welcome back to the desk. Joining me right now is the basketball crew, Steven, Tristin, Richard, and Filip. And guys, let's get right into it. Bottom of the East isn't really as glamorous as the bottom of the West, but there's still a really tight playoff race. Steven, go to you first. Take us through the bottom of the East here and what teams can make it, what teams can't.
Well, if we take a look at the Eastern Conference standings, you have a lot of the bottom teams are, sub 500. So you have the Detroit Pistons at 32 and 31. Then you got the Brooklyn Nets 34 and 33. And you got the Miami Heat still making their run. You got the Charlotte Hornets. You got the Orlando Magic. They're making their runs. But I don't know. It's just not as good as you see in the West. A lot of the guys in the West are above 500, so they're a little more entertaining. But with the East, it is still pretty tight. You still got a couple weeks left until the season ends. So I think it's going to be a pretty interesting way to see how these matchups play out.
Tristan?
The East has always, like the past couple years, been kind of shaky. The West, again, always entertaining. There's always some kind of fight for like the last 7, 8 seed. I'm hoping someone just makes it exciting at the bottom. Just give me some form of entertainment, because it's now that LeBron is out of the East, you can really make something of
So let's throw a question out there. Ultimately, there's 5 teams going for about 3 open slots. Everyone else is kind of comfortable in their positions. Richard, which 3 teams do you think are ultimately going to make the playoffs?
The 3 teams I think that are going to make the playoffs are probably going to be the teams that are in the 6, 7, and 8, Pistons, Nets, and then Heat. I mean, I'd love to see D-Wade go to the playoffs in his last year. I'm really not interested in seeing the Magic and play. Evan Fournier and Aaron Gordon and DJ Augustine don't excite me, and Kemba Walker's a one-man crew with Charlotte, so I like the teams where they're at right now.
Filip?
Yeah, Charlotte I pretty much kind of counted out already because they have a really tough schedule coming ahead of them. The Pistons have been the best team post All-Star break, so they're pretty much locked in for me. I think the remaining 2 teams are probably going to be the Nets and the Magic. The Magic have been playing fantastic. Actually, ironically, since Mo Bamba went down, they've been reaching out to Kem Burch off the bench, and he's been working so much better for them. Their defense is so much tighter, and they don't have too hard of a schedule coming up. I think it's going to end up, and I think they're going to end up moving to the 7th seed too. I think the Nets are going to slip down to number 8. They have a really hard schedule coming up, so that's my 3: Detroit, Orlando, and Brooklyn.
Richie, you don't seem okay with that.
I'm not okay with that. The Nets will not drop. The only switch I want to see in the playoffs maybe is Raptors facing the Pistons instead of facing the Nets, because I want to see Dwayne Casey step back into the Air Canada Center and get a dub. But besides that, I don't really think the Magic are going to jump 2 spots.
Well, I mean, it's pretty much they're a game back from jumping 2 spots, so it's not impossible. It's not that hard. And again, I think the remaining schedule, because Brooklyn has so many tough games ahead of them, the Magic have pretty much an easy road, so I think it's on the Magic.
Now moving from the Eastern Conference to the Western Conference, more particularly at the bottom of the Western Conference right now, the Lakers. Recent struggles, their window for the playoffs looks bleak, and the report came out earlier this week from Mark Stein that the Lakers are expected to fire Luke Walton at the end of the season. Filip, do you think these actions by the Lakers front office are justified?
Yeah, first off, I just want to touch up on that. Good call on the bottom of the West, because they're in 11th place right now. The Lakers, that is absurd thinking, they're trying to make that playoff push. Luke Walton it's his 3rd year as coach right now. He came in from Golden State. As high as the highs he had in Golden State, he ended on a 73-9 year, and now he has not had a winning season since he became head coach in Los Angeles. Do I think the firing is justified? No, I don't. I think he was handed the front office did a terrible job building his team around him, building a team around LeBron, and he's from the get-go, too. He had barely any time to play with his team healthy. You remember the first 4 games of the season, he already had suspensions off Brandon Ingram and Rajon Rondo, between Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, and LeBron James, so many injuries. They've only played around 30 games with all 3 together. It's unfair to put the blame on Luke Walton. But, I mean, I'm not surprised. I'm not shocked at all that Magic and Pelinka are pointing the finger at him.
I agree with Filip. The firing, even saying that, I think is unjustified. Like he alluded to, injury-riddled. I mean, not having Lonzo Ball this year really hurt the Lakers, just like with somebody to run the offense, even when LeBron was injured as well. And, yeah, he didn't have anything to work with. Half the team thought they were going to get traded at the trade deadline. How are you going to build any chemistry with that? You can't blame that on a man with a team with not that much talent. It's ridiculous.
Tristin?
I think if you're going to do it, you just got to rip the Band-Aid off. I think while it might not be justified now, you might find some justification for it later. So you might want to avoid that. So if you're just going to do it now. Maybe bring in someone like Mark Jackson who might be able to.
No, that's my biggest issue. Is the reported replacements for him: Ty Lue, Mark Jackson, Jason Kidd. You can't find a worse trio to coach that team. If you're talking about dysfunction right now, that's not. None of those three guys are going to solve any of the problems in LA. They're going to make it worse.
Yeah, I think LeBron is they're emphasizing him as now the coach killer, because you see now. Eric Spoelstra from the Miami Heat, he was the only one that really stayed when it came to head coaches, because he's actually a good coach. Everyone that gets paired with LeBron, you see them end up getting fired eventually. So I think Luke Walton deserves to stay. They didn't give him shooters, basically. They poorly built roster.
Now, speaking of LeBron, some bittersweet praise for him this week. He passed Michael Jordan on the all-time scoring list despite losing that game. Richard, is it time to say that LeBron has been passed as the best player in the world, or is he still the best basketball player on the planet?
At the end of the day, the GOAT is the GOAT. I mean, you could check his numbers right here. 27, 28, 9, 8 rebounds per game. I mean, he might not have the same juice in the tank, but, I mean, if you see him on the roster come game night, it's not a pushover now just because he might not be playing great defense this late in his career when he's got a bunch of young guys that should be flying around. So I think he's still considered the best player right now.
Oftentimes, when we consider LeBron James to be the best player in the league, it's because of that potential he had in the playoffs. It was, his game-by-game floor has been withered with time. He has not really playing defense anymore. He has really inconsistent games where he has bad outings. It was always the reason why we alluded to him as being the best player in basketball at the end of the day was because we knew that ceiling, come playoff time, he could do things that no one else could do. This year, we are not going to see that ceiling because he's not going to be in the playoffs. So automatically, I have to defer my thought that him being the best player in the league just because of his ceiling is non-existent anymore. It can't be. So we have to look for, I don't think it's time to make a replacement yet. There's a few guys who could take that replacement. I think we have to wait until the playoffs to see who the truly the best performer in the playoffs is. Guys like Curry, Durant, Harden, and Antetokounmpo are automatic frontrunners for the best player in the game. So until the playoffs, I don't think we can name a best player, but it's not LeBron James anymore.
Steven, very quickly, break the tie for us.
No, yeah, I definitely think LeBron cannot be considered the best player in the world anymore. Injuries have riddled him. He's one kind of like Kobe injury away from, completely retiring. So definitely not the best player.
Well, that's all we have for basketball this week. We'll switch over from the hardwood to the pitch when the soccer crew right after the break.